Good morning, good afternoon, folks. How's it going out there? Welcome back here to a Sunday. It is Sunday, August 17th, 2025. Local time here in California, 11:43 a.m. Latest activity shows a 1.9 there across Southern California, the latest in the green flag. A number of smaller earthquakes out there this morning in the 1 and 2 range. It looks like one of the latest there, two-pointer along the San Jacinto fault zone. Been pretty active out here recently. Of course, that's very normal. Which is it's a fairly lengthy fault system here that runs into the plate boundary, the San Andreas Fault. Today, we have a couple earthquakes, though, just off the southern branch here of the San Andreas Fault. Lighting up here in the last hour, a couple ones there. It looks like not seeing anything big, no unusual type of activity for now. Just looks like a typical day down there in Southern California as far as earthquake activity goes. Excuse me. We do have a little bit of activity on the creeping segment here of the San Andreas Fault yesterday and today. Let's go ahead and zoom in here, see what we have. Looks like 2 today. Like I said, just off the on the San Andreas Fault here along the creeping section. Nothing big happening out here around the Bay Area for now. One little earthquake this morning. Looks like a 1.8 on the San Andreas Fault outside the San Francisco Zoo. Over here across Northern California, one more earthquake after midnight last night. That's into the southern end here of the Cascadia subduction zone. Been pretty active out here in this area. Still kind of watching this region here closely. Been seeing a little bit more elevated activity in this area than normal. And also the tremor activity has been quite active out here as well across the Cascadia subduction zone. This is yesterday's epicenters of a tremor. 307 is the count. A little bit here, a little bit there, covering pretty much the entirety there of the Cascadia subduction zone, even down here across Northern California. Seems as though when we get tremor activity here in Northern California recently, that's been resulting in earthquake activity upstream towards the locked area, which has been, we've seen a couple earthquakes up here along the Cascadia fold and thrust belt as well. Again, that's just watching it. It could pop at any time here. It's not like we had this big mega quake here 100 years ago, and we still have 400 years to go. This last ruptured here 325 years ago, so a lot of time has passed. A couple earthquakes there around Mount Rainier and Mount Lassen. One earthquake after midnight, a little 0.9 at Mount Rainier. So let's go see if we can spot that earthquake in the seismograph station there across Mount Rainier. So that's just after 12:30 this morning, a little 0.9. We're going to check this one out here. Excuse me, goodness. All right. Just after midnight, a little 0.9. All right, so I already see it. That's very visible. That would be a 0.9, almost a 1 magnitude. And I'm like I said, I'm still thinking here some of these other quakes that are not as large as this one, but still showing up on the seismograph stations, are still earthquakes, but of smaller magnitudes. I think what's going on here, they've adjusted their reporting threshold. These obviously stand out. Anyone that looks at a graph here can say, wow, that's an earthquake, obviously. If you look back at the UTC time here, we've seen a number of them, including one there yesterday afternoon as well. But for some reason, that was about 2:30 or so in the afternoon. That one looks a little bit bigger than the one-pointer, but they failed to pick that one out. Nothing showing up there from yesterday as far as the afternoon time period. So I don't know why, or the reasoning behind why some earthquakes get reported and some not. Either way, going to be watching the ones that they are reporting and then comparing them to other signals here on the graph, just for a comparison here, because a lot of these could be ice quakes, these very thin ones. I'm thinking some type of ice quakes. Rock falls are not going to look like that. Rock falls are going to be more of a thicker, drawn out type of signal. But that's the 0.9. There's definitely a handful of other earthquakes out here this morning and from yesterday that were not reported there. Like I say, some of them are probably ice quakes. There's that 0.9. That looks like it's really close there to the seismograph station. That's why it showed up quite nicely there on this seismograph station there to the northeast of Mount Rainier. Still at the volcano, but just off the summit a little bit here. 0.9 is going to be really close, literally almost right on top of that seismograph station. Pretty shallow earthquake as well, so this is going to be negative 1.1 miles. You account for the elevation difference out here, right? It's 14,411 foot summit. That tells me right there that it's still about a mile or so underneath this area of the summit area. So we'll continue to watch that. Nothing big happening. Obviously, if there was some type of major increasing movement there, we would know. But, a handful of earthquakes that are happening that are still not being reported. Yellowstone National Park, nothing showing up here. Got a couple earthquakes up in Montana from yesterday. Let's see if the USGS Volcanoes website is working. I know last night I couldn't get access to it. Today it looks like it is back up and functioning. We'll go check out the Yellowstone seismograph stations here, see if anything's cooking up there. This is current too, 817, 1130. Yep, I don't really see anything of any noteworthy value there across Yellowstone. I'm using this one because this one's fairly well defined in terms of the amplitude readings out here. If there is earthquake activity, whether it's west of the park or around the Caldera area, this one would pick it up. But I don't see anything of interest out there across Yellowstone super volcano for now. Skipping over Texas because, well, Texas is earthquake country and also liquid gold out there. The oil fields all across the Permian Basin and also south of San Antonio, they're always getting hit with earthquake activity. Man, my voice just dropped. Did you hear that? 4.9 this morning there along the Gulf of California just after midnight. That could be, it does look like maybe the reasoning why we're seeing a little bit of elevated activity there across Southern California right now. This is not big earthquake activity, but it is increasing a little bit there in the last hour or two. Most of the time, this movement down here in the Gulf will stir things up across the area of California, so we'll definitely watch that. 4.9. Looks like there was a 5.4 down here earlier as well. Eastern portion of the country, nothing showing up there across the area. Nothing showing up on the New Madrid seismic zone either. Let's see if I can access the data systems out here real quick. I need to really reorganize this bookmark here. I'm going to have to look at this later. I don't want to take up a lot of time looking through that. But one of these days, I got to take about an hour and resort that. I'm sure there's a program that can put those in an alphabetical order somehow. All right, let's see what else we got going on. Pretty active out here across the western Pacific here, including areas around the western area of the Filipino plate. Got a 4.5 around the Philippines right now. This earthquake pretty deep there, 103 miles underneath the area of Manila. Looks like yesterday had another deep earthquake there, 101 miles for 4.9. That could stir things up out here across the subduction zones. Number of subduction zones out here. A main one being the Philippine Trench. Deeper earthquake activity obviously can lead, most of the time it does lead to larger activity in the vicinity, so we'll watch that throughout the day today. There's that earthquake up into the Nankai Trough yesterday. Nothing new to report there today, but it is in an interesting area because of that. Well, we've had swarms all around it here recently, and this is a prime area to watch here for some megaquake movement. It's a major subduction zone capable of producing megaquakes, and they normally rupture here in pairs as far as the segments go. This is section A, B, C, D, E. There's 5 segments here. 1942 and 1944 was the last series of earthquakes that ruptured A and B, and C and D, excuse me, without E. So this section has not had any rupture there in a long time. So that could take the entirety there with it if it does go, resulting in a bigger earthquake. So just got to watch that. It's it's all about time when it comes to geology and plate tectonics. Time is what is of the essence here in terms of producing big earthquakes out there. And again, it's not like we had a big earthquake 30 years ago on that, to where we have to wait another 80 years for a big quake. But let me turn that off. All right, let's see if there's anything else going on up here. The Russia area, I noticed that it's backing off quite a bit here on the earthquake aftershock sequences there. That's normal, but you lower that a little bit. It looks like, see, I'm still waiting on the EMSC data to come in. By the way, we have another deep earthquake here, 4.5, coming in here within the last 20 minutes, it looks like. That is a deep earthquake down here. Look at that. 376 miles deep into the Tonga Trench. Already getting some subsequent adjustment 5 minutes later. This is the general plate stress map here. Excuse me, sorry about that. Bring that back up here a little bit. Just making sure I had the bells off. But the general plate stress movement here, when we get deeper earthquake activity here along that Tonga Trench, Kermadec Trench, it can normally strain these areas across where the hand is going across there, the plate boundary. And it looks like that was, took place 5 minutes following this deeper earthquake here. 11:30 for a super deep 376 mile, 4.5. 5 minutes later, some surface adjustment going on here outside of Port Moresby area. So watch this region. A lot of deeper activity resulting in subsequent shallow adjustment here across this region. Got deeper activity up north. Could be in the works here of seeing some larger movement soon. There's that 5-pointer. Alaska area, a little bit of movement here into that zone between the Kamchatka area and that 7-pointer that struck out here in Alaska in the last couple weeks there. Got that area stirring up, it looks like, this morning. 4.2. I don't recall the last time we've seen a major earthquake out here in this segment. I guess we can look at that real quick. It is part of a major subduction zone, and it's subject to megaquakes as well. We're going to go 6.9. I'm just going to look here, see when our last big earthquake struck out there in that region of the Aleutian Trench. Not really worried about areas to the east or west, but mainly roughly across this area right here. So let's see what we have. I put in 6.9 and above. Here's the oceanic crust map. Last one looks like 7.3, a little bit further up north here in 2018. Let's see, here's a 7.9. That was 2014 there. Earthquake activity in question is occurring roughly between that one and this one here. So probably within this segment right here where we need to look for these dates. 7.7 back in 2017. Prior to that, an extended amount of time there. 1990 was the last 7.1. Seems like we get earthquakes in this area of large magnitude every 20 to 25 years or so. So I don't know. We might 2017. Not quite 10 years there. But I'll definitely watch that. I do like to look at these historical models because it can kind of give you a good idea where seismic gap zones are. They're missing earthquake activity here along the subduction zone there. A lot of these quakes at the surface, this ridging. So that may be of an interest right here. Between this quake there at the subduction zone, 2018, to this one, 1909. Watch this area right here. All right, let's get back here to the rest of the earthquake activity. Like I said, I wish the EMSC model was up and running. I guess we can go over here to their map real quick and see if there's anything of interest going on. It's just, I'm just not a big fan of it. It's just really glitchy. So I'll try to take my time with it. Maybe I'm going too fast on it. Maybe it's kind of causing it to freeze up a little bit. I'll just go a little bit slower. Let's see, nothing major going on here across the Mediterranean. Some activity there in the Turkey region from that earthquake that struck there, I think within the last week. A decent sized event there, but still some aftershock sequences there going on. Let's see. Not a whole lot there across India for now. Java Trench got some movement there. A couple earthquakes, 4.4 there from yesterday, it looks like. A couple newer quakes around the Java Trench as well. But that deeper activity up north and movement down south here today makes me think that something is in the works out here. New Zealand not showing anything there on the EMSC model. I guess we can go check out the GeoNet servers here real quick. Make sure I got the most recent data, which I'm sure I do. There we go. 3.0 off the Alpine Fault down across South Island there 11 minutes ago. I don't see anything of any noteworthy earthquake activity. Looks like 5 hours ago, 3.8. Stirring up. That's probably a felt earthquake there. 75 reports around Wellington coming in there. And then the last one prior to that, as far as a felt earthquake goes, looks like 2 days ago. So a little bit quiet down there, but I guess we'll kind of see how today plays out. Deeper activity definitely stirring up things right now. Let's see here. Puerto Rico pretty quiet, only a handful of smaller quakes there. There's another earthquake off the coast there, Guatemala, 5.4 from last night. All right, let's see. Let's check in on the big island of Hawaii real quick. Got to be getting close to an eruption, I feel. I mean, it's got to be getting close here. Let's go ahead and see what we got there from the summit webcams real quick. Get a little visual perspective of things. Still quite a bit of volcanic gases out there. Looks like a beautiful day out there. Not around the volcano, but in general, in the weather. Only a few clouds out there, it looks like, on the big island. As far as the inflation data goes, deformation data, still no eruption yet. Still going up. Little pauses here, it looks like, every few hours or so. Every 12 hours it comes to a little stationary, and then it builds back up, almost like a pulse. Kind of neat looking. But we should be seeing an eruption here pretty soon across Kilauea Volcano. It's at or exceeding the level seen in a few of the last eruptions here. Not the very last eruption. We're not quite to that point, but they don't always follow the exact same level leading up to an eruption, but we're close. I would definitely say here at any point we could see it. Space weather activity. How's a B7.6 sound for you? That sounds pretty boring, right? When it comes to the solar flare activity, not a whole lot happening. That is expected. There's not a whole lot of complex sunspots out here. We do have, however, a decent, you can kind of see it right here. This is a filament, and sometimes these things blast off, lift off and blast off from the sun and shoot plasma out. But it's hard to say when it's going to do it. I don't see any signs of it lifting off right now. We do have a coronal hole, number 72, that is facing us. That may stir up some solar wind stream, or stir up the auroras with some high-speed solar wind stream here in the nights ahead, days ahead. Looks like that's going to be on the 19th of August. Maybe a G1 class storm. This is UTC time of the 19th. So maybe tomorrow night there. Looks like we may see some effects of the high-speed solar wind stream from that coronal hole. But no large earthquake activity since that coronal hole's been facing us. A lot of people tend to, think that coronal hole's there, directly facing Earth, and it is. Center disk affects earthquake activity, and sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. I'm kind of keeping a total tally here of space-related events in relation to elevated earthquake activity here on the planet, and it comes and goes. It's kind of a toss-up right now, but it's just a little thought, little theory. A lot of people, because of the way the coronal hole works here, the magnetic lines here just kind of shoot out into space, and that can have an effect on, planets and whatnot, potentially plate tectonics. At least that theory is. But my book here, I'm going to continue to put in data and eventually put up a total tally. I've been doing it here for about a year or so, keeping track, maybe about a year and a half, keeping track of space weather events. And we can go back in time and look at large solar flares and large CMEs and large proton events and compare that to days when we've seen elevated earthquake activity. I've done this before. There's definitely some type of relationship to it, but not all the time. Anyway, we do have that coronal hole facing us. Auroras maybe tomorrow night there. But the sunspots, man, just dropping like a rock. Look at this, 20% for an M flare. Hello, that is quiet. X flare 1% or less where it should be. There's it's just not a lot happening here on the sun as far as any sunspots go. Pretty much decaying. They've all disappeared, faded off into the sunset. Nothing coming behind that either. Quick glance here at the Storm Prediction Center for severe weather. Got a little slight risk up here across Iowa, it looks like. Minnesota, South Dakota, portions of Nebraska in there as well. There's a little 2% chance there for some tornado activity. Wind, not so much for hail, but looks like main threat going to be some wind damage out there from those thunderstorms. Let's go ahead and check out the latest information here on Hurricane Erin. See what we got there. 125 mile an hour sustained wind. See, it's weakening as expected. It is expanding in size. Let me show you guys the well, there we go. It's working. Looks like it is. Lost the eye. Yeah, I don't think this is going to recover. Still a strong hurricane, but it's having some issues there, probably from the land limiting the moisture supply, so to speak. But it's still a strong one. Whether it regains its eye or not, we'll have to see. Either way, this is projected to take a fairly quick northward path. All the models are in agreement. No threat to land, and then way northeast, away from the areas up north here. So we're good on that. But I do want to double check back on the forecast models out in the Atlantic. So we'll go over here to the North Atlantic and check out a potential another tropical system following Erin. It's actually over here, I believe. Watch this weather model. Down there over Florida. See, it's still picking up on something right in the Louisiana again. See, it varies between this, it varies between hitting the East Coast, varies between Florida. It's a ways out there for sure, but the thing is, it's picking up on some type of tropical development similar to what it did with Erin weeks prior, right? And it was off, obviously, in terms of the path, but it was accurate in terms of picking up something substantial in terms of a major hurricane. So we got to watch this as we get closer to this time period. We'll know a little bit more as we get probably around the 24th or so. This going over land like that, Puerto Rico area and the Dominican Republic will substantially degrade anything. But if it continues there in the Gulf, that could have enough time to form into a decent hurricane. And then from there, we're just, like I said, we'll have to watch this as we get closer to the time period. We're about 8-9 days out if we look at this time period here. But we'll definitely keep checking back on that. And then behind that, well, nothing else for now. All right, real quick glance here at the next close approach asteroids to the planet. We'll see if there's anything of any major interest out here. A couple millions of miles away. This one's pretty close within the Earth-Moon distance, but that's still reasonably safe there. 183,000 miles for a 32-foot bus-size asteroid. And that's on the 18th tomorrow. We got this one coming in today, but that's way out there. And that's good, because that's 170 foot. Don't want that coming into the planet. All right, seismograph stations out there, pretty quiet right now. And these are all working normal like they should. I haven't had any issues with them going down. The only issue is the EMSC data, but I'll continue to check back on that because I do want to add them back onto the globe here because it makes a big difference in seeing the international earthquake activity. When you got swarms going on somewhere that the USGS is not covering, well, we lose the information there because swarms can sometimes lead to bigger events in the area. USGS only showing a fraction of what takes place out here on the globe. 4.5. Sometimes they'll throw in 4.0 and above, or a 4.0 level. But yeah, hopefully they get that working. In the meantime, folks, enjoy the rest of your weekend. We will see you guys out here for the Sunday night update. The weekend goes by pretty quick, doesn't it? But make the best of it because you still got a little bit of time here. Have a good one. We'll see you guys out here tonight, later tonight. Take care.